Lard cake, ladies, and roasted Rogers. When in doubt, boil it out. Have a good look around for the lamb sauce. And, waiter, please take back this dish. It's got flavor in it.
Oi, oi, oi! It's time to talk Tull to me. I feel like I've done that before verbatim.
I don't think you have.
Well, thank you.
Maybe you have.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the podcast. I am Omen Thomas Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are the Feckless Momes.
And this, my Union Jacks, is Talk Tull to me.
A salivating skedaddle in the scullery of prog rock, in which tastes nice, Nick, and made with awful omen, we'll stick our fingers into each and every treacle-tart track that rag-pudding rock band Jethro Tull have ever ground out into a sausage casing. We will nick the pickle from Florian Opal's Ploughman's Lunch, grab David Goodyear by the grody pudding, and apply a wholly inappropriate quantity of icing to Scott Hammond's hot-crossed buns. And if we can protect our parmo from harmo, keep the scouse from the mouse, and put the correct pork pie on our heads, we just might get a hot mouthful of the toad-in-the-hole tambourinist, the roly-poly who keeps it holy, a man whose shelf life puts Christmas fruitcakes to shame, Ian, come home with me and I'll show you my Knickerbocker glory, Anderson.
Isn't that just like an ice cream sundae?
Knickerbocker glory?
Yeah.
You're thinking of a Knickerbocker glory hole.
No, you are.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. It's an ice cream sundae. It's layered.
Oh, nailed it. I think it's probably referenced in Harry Potter. I think that's why I know the books.
Apparently, it was invented in New York City.
Yeah, that's why the basketball team is the New York Knicks.
The New York Knickerbockers.
Because Knickerbocker is
No, that's not.
something down there.
Is that true? Well, there was the Knickerbocker Hotel.
Oh, that must be why. Yeah.
Well, this has all been fascinating.
Great. End of podcast.
Dick, what is it that we have the responsibility, nay the duty, to talk about this week here on Talk Tull to Me?
Well, it's fairly exciting because we are halfway through the album that is Homo Eroticus. We're wrapping up part 1.
Yeah.
This is chapter 8, the Pax Britannica.
Pax Britannica. To review, part 1 is entitled Chronicles. Part 2 is entitled Prophecies.
Prophecies.
Hey,
Mr.
Harker.
I must go to class and see my prophecies.
To suck their blood. Without much ado, why don't we have a listen to the Pax Britannica?
Let's do it.
Nick McGill.
Omen Thomas Sade.
What is our year marking for this particular song, the Pax Britannica?
Ooh, I say, ooh.
Ooh, I say.
Ooh, lightly down there. It is 1815 to 1914.
Interesting.
So just before the start of Downton Abbey, just before the sinking of the Titanic.
Yep.
Just before World War I. Not too far away.
Just after my grandmother was born.
Just after your grandmother was born.
And corresponding fairly closely to the lifespan of Queen Victoria.
Yes, right. That's Victorian. After that is Edwardian, I think.
Yes, after Victoria, we had Edward the Seventh. And then we changed over to the House of Windsor, and we got George V.
Who was that?
Edward the Seventh?
Who was before Windsor? It wasn't still Tudors, was it?
It was. So Queen Victoria was of the House of the Hanoverians, who shared rulership of part of Germany. Victoria seemed to be the last of that particular house. And then after Edward the Seventh was part of the House of Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha. And then we went to the House of Windsor, which is, I believe, the current royal line.
Yes, because Liz II's son is current monarch.
Yes. And hence Windsor Palace.
Oh. Is it Tudor Palace when the Tudors are in power and Goethe Palace when they're in power? And
I think the Windsors built the palace and named it after themselves.
Really? Wow. Oh, look at that.
But here we are talking about Queen Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
And her reign corresponded, 1837 to 1901, with the great British blossoming of...
Bake-Off.
The great British bake-off of colonialism.
Yes, that
one.
Oh yes, India. Let's take over India and just say it's ours.
Big India, big China, big world.
Yeah.
The sun never sets on the British Empire.
Yep. Very much broader scale version of Rome, basically.
In some ways, yeah, it's interesting to see the parallels. Let's see, her reign saw the British Empire double in size, and in 1876, the Queen became Empress of India, as well as Queen of England, Queen of Britain.
Just by virtue of sending in troops. Let's be clear, she didn't marry anybody, she didn't inherit anything.
I'm pretty sure it was a mutual agreement.
Is that sarcasm?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Nick, let's talk about what does Pax Britannica mean? That sounds Latinate.
It is a Latinate, and I think it's fairly tongue-in-cheek here because it means peaceful Britain.
Or the peace of Britain.
The peace of Britain, yeah.
Just a piece.
Just a piece of Britain.
I'm rather full, so just a little piece.
Just a slice. I just want to taste it. I just want to experience it.
So, I mean, we also have historians refer to things like the Pax Romana.
Yes.
The Pax... Pax Lovid, and it typically refers to a period of the absence of war. But I think
is that a medicine?
Yes,
that's very good.
welcome to the show. But I think it is also a little euphemistic sometimes because usually, I mean, certainly in this case, Pax Britannica was achieved through the incredible application of very, very violent force across the world.
Or, in a sense, it could be peaceful if the incursion was not violent. If the place that was incurred upon was not able to stand up for itself.
Exactly.
It was a peaceful expansion as opposed to that bloody expansion that Rome did. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Shame on them.
Exactly. So, a bit rather tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the music.
Sure. Yeah, we've got a decent amount going on here.
This is a complex tune.
Yeah, so we start out with a couple of bumps. I checked the end of the Engineers doesn't flow together. This is not one of those instances. It feels like it ought to be, but it's not. We do have those hits of guitar, flute, and drums. 3 of them.
Yes, and that gives us a very interesting opportunity to observe the reverb settings that are on these instruments, because we get that dump and then a rest, but we have the reverberation of those instruments really quite extended. I mean, it's really quite a heavy reverb on there.
Yeah, it's pretty effective in terms of kind of giving the feel of grandiosity.
Yes.
The sound echoes over this mass expanse.
This is all partly the work of Jacko Jaskic. Jacko Jaskic. Jacko Jazz Hands. Giving us that warm feeling, the warm flavor that permeates this album.
Yes, very nice.
Very umami.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What do those 3 bumps remind me of? Is there something like that in... Tell me, Omen, what does it remind me of? Is it something in tab 2 that starts like that? I feel like there's something...
I think there is something. I mean, it's certainly not the first time where we would have a complex run of notes followed by a break, followed by a rest, and then another complex run of notes followed by a rest. Oh, you did it. You made the connection.
Bum 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 ba dum bum. Bum 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 ba dum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Oh, which one is it? I think it's What-ifs. I think it's What-ifs, Maybes, and Might Have Beens.
Stand by. What if God was one of us?
That's funny. I listened to that song just today.
Why?
Because that album, that Joan Osborne album, is very good. Damn it, no. Try Kismet. No, try Confessional. Oh, that harpsichord. Try Change Your Horses. Try just one more. Try the last one. Fuck. I'll go through all of them and see if I can find it. If it does exist, if it's not a cryptid, I will put it in right. Not yet. Right here.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you.
And if you didn't just hear anything, it's because I was wrong. Yeah.
But if you did hear something, it's because Nick was right.
It's yeah.
But that is...
I should Rickroll everybody right there. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down.
What if God was one of us?
does not quite scan the
really.
same way. Yeah.
Doesn't really at all.
What if God was one of us? Just a slug like one of us. Blue, 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 blue. Yeah, blah, blee, blee, blee. Well done. Very good.
Dr. Evil, that was fantastic.
Thank you, number 2. I wrote that. Yeah.
I do think that this is a it's not a trick, but it is a type of compositional technique that we've heard from Ian that he has favored in the last couple of decades.
What, these bump beat? Yes. Yeah, I do feel like it's this new era of Tull sound.
Yeah. It's very composerly, it's sort of neo-prog.
It's neo-Tull.
It's neoprene.
Keeps you warm in the cold, cold water.
Yeah, it does. It sure does.
Also makes for a good knee brace.
Quite a complex melody, but one which manages to come across once we get into the singing.
Mm-hmm. It is after that third bump, we're right into the singing at about 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yes. There's something very charming and folksy about the actual tune and the rhythm of it.
It reminds me of Curious Ruminant, a handful of the songs off of Curious Ruminant. This kind of this lightness, this not quite folky, but there's something that's definitively less ecclesiastical from Zealot Jean, less heavy from Rockeflute, but this light kind of I want to go back to Tull sound.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like a kernel of what we will be hearing in 30 years or however long it took between those albums.
Yeah, it's a little note of folk, a little implication of Celtic tunage,
a suggestion of Brit song.
Yes, an insinuation of traditionalism.
Oh, too good.
And then here's something very curious. Speaking of curious ruminant, here's something I've ruminated on while listening. What do you reckon the time signature of this song is?
Oh, Jesus. So I got bits of 444434 for the main verses.
Yeah.
And that breaks up in the chorus. I think there are bits of 4424 at times. I could not put my finger on it.
I think it switches between the verse and the chorus, as you indicated.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think that it is 4-4-4-4-3-4. I was counting it as 11-4, which maths out to exactly what you're saying.
Sure.
But it is interesting that it feels like it has a steady meter, but then there's always a little bit of a swing at the end.
There's a hitch in it. Yeah, definitely.
And it's nice because it does give us kind of this swingy feeling. I think that it would be very easy to say, oh, okay, this is a song about Queen Victoria, the Victorian era of expansion in the British Empire, and so we're going to make it very kind of straight militaristic. And he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He kind of focuses in on the charm. It feels like a parlor room conversation. It's very intimate and fun.
True to Ian form, he does not go for that low-hanging fruit. He does not go for the obvious turn. Well, I mean, that's not true, though. I mean, like think about some of the more recent...
Do I contradict myself? Well, then I contradict myself.
You convinced me, Omen. I mean, think about some of the times we hear train songs, and it's that chugga, 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 chugga feel. You know, so he does do that. He does...
Sure.
I mean, and I'm fairly sure in the earlier like references to Rome marching and spreading, we get kind of a march feel. So
We do.
I'm completely wrong, and I will fight myself in the backyard.
I will watch and I will sell tickets. $10 a pop. But and I'll take bets as well. He does both. He also will sometimes take a topic where you think, oh, well, obviously this would sound like this, and he does something completely different. So you never know what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's true. Unless it's a song about trains, in which case...
It's going to sound like a motherfucking train.
It's going to sound like a train, yeah.
Trains.
So we get that 10 seconds. We've got lovely piano.
I came to woo you at behest of Uncle Leo, did my best to charm and flatter, soothe, left hearts of scheming Saxon prince to rest.
Really, the piano is all over the place in this song. It's really great. It's a lot of fun. So it's piano and Ian singing. And then at 19 and 25, we get just like a single guitar strum.
To charm and flatter, soothe, left hearts of scheming Saxon prince to rest. Just 17 you were, emboldened, turned away, plain orange boy.
To add a little spice to that broth.
It is very piano heavy, and
Yes.
there's a lot of it where it's just the piano and the voice,
Yes. Yeah.
which isn't terribly common for Tull.
It's definitely Ian saying, hey, John, this is your song. And John's like,
In a way.
all right. He cracks all 12 fingers and goes to town.
Yeah.
And it's great. I freaking love John's work. It's so good.
He says, I'll leave it entirely up to you as long as you play it exactly like this.
And he does. And he does.
Yeah.
It's exactly how Ian would want it.
And then second verse, we get the bass coming in.
Yeah.
We get the drums coming in. The bass is really plummy.
It's kind of jazzy.
Now empire spills a growing blood across the Atlas, leaves its mark. The hands of men in iron ships stoke their boilers, fan the spark.
Well, that goes back to that sense of the swing that I think
Yes. Mm-hmm.
there are lots of things swing.
Not mine.
Why is this pineapple upside down?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Upside down pineapple is a call symbol of
On a
the
cruise
swinger,
ship?
In any context, of a swinger community.
Hey, swingers here, basically.
But yeah, exactly. It's the bat symbol for STDs.
For strange sex.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a pineapple? I have to go. My crotch itches.
Quick, Robin, into the slutmobile.
You know the ambiguously gay duo, don't you?
Of course.
Yes, okay.
Do I know them?
Doodle-doodle-doodle.
They're under my desk right now. Many forms of music have a swing to them. And what I think is brilliant about what Ian has done with this track is that he has found a pivot point with kind of folky, traditional, kind of almost like a hornpipe feeling of a swing, and then the jazz on the other axis, and they both have that kind of swingy feeling.
Interesting, yeah. Whatever it is that the bass is doing, that like truncated, plummy, definitely gives it a jazz. But the drum that starts right at that same time feels mildly militaristic. So I think that's exactly what you're talking about, that kind of cross section.
Yeah, which probably puts, not an easy thing for Mr. Hammond to create a militaristic march feeling within an 11/4 time signature.
Yeah.
He has a dozen sticks in each hand, and every time they get to that one measure, he just throws one of them out backstage.
Yeah, he's good too. I mean, this week, I gotta say, like, yes, there's every era of Tull is talented, is ridiculously talented.
Absolutely.
But there's something about this lineup of Tull that just really makes me appreciate the technique, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah. Yes.
Everyone can like rock the shit out of their instruments. Like Barrymore was amazing. But these guys got something else there. Maybe it is that structured learning that you got to be good before you can kind of pull away and really go ham on it. Like kind of the reason why Ian decided to learn flute, right?
Right. And I do think it goes back to the change of horses, as it were.
Yes.
Of Ian's totally refreshment. Ian's total refreshment.
Delicious.
Come down to Ian's Total Refreshment for an ice cold Coca-Cola filled with peanuts. Have you ever heard of that? It's a Southern snack where you take a Coke and a bag of salted peanuts. You drink like a third of the Coke, and then you put the peanuts in the Coke, and then you can. It was a mining thing because it says like protein, salty, and then the sugary from the Coke. And significantly, you can eat it / drink it without using your dirty ass hands.
So you prep before you go in.
No, you can open the Coke and tear the peanut packet open and pour it in without your hands ever touching any of the edible foods.
That's makes utter sense.
Y'all have any of them edible foods? Fresh out, sir. Have a rock.
At about 54, is that harmonics just like ping, ping?
Ferguson. Ferguson.
Yes, those are harmonics.
Nice. And then keep that playing, because at about 57, there's this really fun little deedly dee from the piano.
Yeah. That's an octave. D, D, D.
Oh,
that's a full octave.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. The piano in the chorus is really good because it's not our structure at that point. We've kind of passed off the structure to the other instruments. So John is free to just be like, I'm going to tinkle over here, and then I'll twinkle on this, and then I'll dinkle over here. And he's just all over the place. It's just a lot of fun.
It is a very John O'Hara-centric song.
Yeah.
And in that chorus, we also have Florian coming in for pretty much his most forward moment, where he's playing some very elongated chords, and he has the guitar in a setting where, at first listen, I actually thought they were strings. Well, technically, I guess they are strings. I thought they were bowed strings.
Yeah. Because
he's playing it, and it just kind of sounds like... But he's doing each of those as chords very fluidly.
Pax Britannica rolls a headland and the wave. And the spirit will and pitches keep us from an early grave. Sweet Victoria, mother of England, gracious queen whom God will save.
Yeah, he is definitely in the background in this one. I would say that John is, really kind of taking the place of the guitar, right? Like traditionally you would hear all of that action coming from the guitar.
Sometimes, yeah, I definitely I think that Ian values the piano more and more and more as we go on through time. There were no keys until the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Until the mid-70s. At around 150, we go into the breakdown. And I'm not talking about the one I had this afternoon.
At about 150.
I'm still recovering my senses.
Yes, very fluty breakdown there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very fruity for you.
Very fruity
for
breakdown
this.
for me. Quite a fruity breakdown here. Ian is all over it, like flies on poo. He's really just fluting it up again.
Yeah,
he's kind of taken a very complex approach to the melody here, and then he's complexifying it again.
Yeah,
he's going up and down and doing counterpoints and all kinds of things. It's fun.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think this might be one of my more favorite songs off the album. I think
I'll allow that.
It's got a slap to it.
This probably isn't going to be in my my sing while driving playlist.
Yeah, it's not a bop, but it does slap. However, the Pax Britannica part, which is like only 2 little parts, is like the only part that I can sing to. The Pax Britannica, and then it's just like
that chorus reminds me of some of the music from that era that was kind of, isn't everything jolly here in Britain? Don't look at what we're doing.
Oh, the 1800s, you're saying?
Yeah,
that kind of era.
Turn of the century, kind of jolly old Brits doing their thing and charmingly conquering the globe.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have tea.
we can't be the bad guys. Look at a crumpet.
We have tea. It's from China, whom we took over, but we do have tea.
You're not oppressed. You're just miseducated. We'll fix it.
It sounds like a cult.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, we could talk about the history of colonialism all day, and we will in the second half.
Or our new podcast.
Stop colonializing me. Feckless Mome is putting the colon back in colonialism.
I mean, it does have colon in it.
It does have colon in it, yeah.
Yeah.
And where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
Nick McGill.
Oh, man.
I dare you. I double and triple dog dare you to name another monarch who has had such an impact on the cultural trajectory of a country as Queen Victoria had on the trajectory culturally of Britain.
Does it have to be a legitimate, like, king or queen?
It can be an illegitimate one.
I'm thinking like Genghis Khan or Caesar.
Okay, fair. Okay.
Putin.
Okay, shut up. Hey, that's enough out of you. Yes. Okay. Of course, there have been lots of monarchs who have greatly affected the trajectory of their countries. Queen Victoria was one of them.
Yes. I hope you can carry this one on your back. A lot of this went over my head, and I didn't even know where to begin.
Well, I think what we can do is begin with the history of Queen Victoria. If we look at the lyrics here, it is written from the perspective of Albert, as in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
As in Prince Albert in a can, right? Isn't he the inspiration for that? And also the Prince Albert.
I don't know that he was the inspiration for. I'm not sure what Prince Albert in a can is.
It was something. It was turned into like a prank call. I think it was tobacco. Yes.
Oh.
Prince Albert in a can was crimp cut tobacco. And you would call the tobacconist and say, "Do you have Prince Albert in a can?" And they say yes. And you say, "Well, you better let him out."
Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah.
So Queen Victoria reigned from a long time. 1837 to 1901. It was the longest royal reign in Britain until that time. And I think it was only surpassed by Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah, Liz II was there forever.
Victoria reigned for 63 years and almost another year, so almost 64 years.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Crazy long.
Yeah.
Part of this was because she took the throne when she was 18.
A wee lass.
Yeah, a very wee lass. Her father's brothers died with no surviving legitimate heirs, and so she was the person in charge.
Right, because laws of succession means they will go far and wide to find a male somewhere, but if they can't, that's when they go to the females.
So she was in the right position, and she was raised under something called the Kensington system. So there's so much of this that I just don't really understand, but it basically meant that even though she was queen, she was still the ward of her mother.
Yeah.
And she didn't love that.
Odd.
Yeah. Apparently she chafed under her mother's rule and disliked quite a lot of things.
Checks out.
So because she was a woman and on the throne...
Woman?
You're no woman. Now, honey.
Not a woman!
Easy.
Gentlemen, not a woman! Meat lug.
There were a lot of plans to marry her to a prince and thus combine empires. You know, this was kind of old Europe at the time. Mm-hmm. And because it was this era, everyone was related to each other.
Yeah.
And her uncle, Leopold, this is the reference to Uncle Leo.
Mm-hmm.
I came to woo you at behest of Uncle Leo, did my best. Wanted her to marry Albert. Somebody else wanted her to marry Alexander, who was the Prince of Orange, Prince Alexander of the Netherlands. And so various people were vying for either of these matches. She met Albert and really liked him. Apparently, she wrote in her diary, Albert is extremely handsome. His hair is about the same color as mine. His eyes are large and blue, and he has a beautiful nose and a very sweet mouth with fine teeth. But the charm of his countenance is his expression, which is most delightful. And Alexander, the orange boy, she described as very plain. So Ian does an amazing job of summing all of this up, these early days in the first verse.
Yeah, absolutely. You covered all the points that he's going to hit.
Really quite interesting that it's written from Albert's perspective. You know, again, we're talking about the Pax Britannica, Britannica, this enlargement, this doubling in size of the British Empire, but he's showing it to us through the lens of this teenage courtship.
Yeah.
I came to woo you at behest of Uncle Leo, did my best to charm and flatter, soothe and lay thoughts of scheming Saxon prince to rest.
I came to woo you at behest of Uncle Leo, did my best to charm and flatter, soothe, lay thoughts of scheming Saxon prince to rest.
I think there was a lot of worry that probably on her part and a lot of people's parts that she would become a target for scheming princes of all manner.
Yeah, right.
You only have to look at the film Frozen to know that princes coming to woo you are not necessarily doing so with the best intents. Just 17, you were emboldened, turned away plain orange boy, and made for me a consort haven in your heart haven of joy.
Just 17, you were emboldened, turned away plain orange boy, and made for me a consort haven in your heart haven of joy.
Apparently they really did like each other.
That's very sweet.
So they did not undertake a formal engagement at that point, but she did a little bit later. So I think at this point she was still the heir apparent, and I think the next year when she was 18, William IV died and she became the Queen of England.
Gotcha. So he was on his way out the door.
Correct.
There were no other heirs, they're making her the heir apparent, and it was their feet were to the fire, and they wanted to make a decision probably to kind of cover their bases and cover their butts.
Regarding a marriage?
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So now that she was queen, she was still unmarried, which as an unmarried woman, she still had to live with her mother. And she complained about this. She described it as a torment. And her advisor said, well, you could get married, which she was pretty shocked by. And people were trying to get her to marry, but she was doing it at her own pace. And apparently, following Albert's second visit to her, she proposed to him. Which is very funny to me, because it seems, on the one hand, it seems incredibly modern. But on the other hand, I don't know that because she was the queen, I don't know if he was able to propose to her.
Right. Yeah, and who knows exactly what happened, it could have been a discussion and they came to a mutual agreement, but he couldn't propose, so she did.
It could be.
Or he did propose, but he couldn't technically, so publicly she did.
She pulled a reverse Uno on him. She was like, "No, I propose. Get up."
The backwards arrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They got married the next year. She wrote, "I never spent such an evening, my dearest, dear Albert." This is after her wedding. "His excessive love and affection gave me feelings of heavenly love and happiness I could never have hoped I had felt before. He clasped me in his arms and we kissed each other again and again. His beauty, his sweetness, and gentleness. Really, how can I ever be thankful enough to have such a husband? To be called by names of tenderness I have never yet heard used before was bliss beyond belief. Oh, this was the happiest day of my life." So, pretty lukewarm feelings, apparently.
Very spicy talk, I would think, for then.
Oh, quite, yeah. During her first pregnancy,
Do you run out of batteries? What happened?
It says during Victoria's first pregnancy in the first few months of marriage. That can't be right.
Well, they got married and then got priggers.
Oh, yeah, of course. I know. Pregnant. It doesn't take 9 months to get pregnant. It takes 9 months to bake the baby, right?
Right. Yes.
She survived an assassination attempt.
Oof.
Yeah, lots of stuff. So that's sort of the early days. Then we move on to the Empire side of things. Now, Empire spills a glowing blot across the Atlas, leaves its mark. The hands of men in iron ships stoke their boilers, fan the spark.
Now Empire spills a growing plot across the Atlas, leaves its mark. The hands of men in iron ships stoke their boilers, fan the spark.
This is a wonderful tie-in to the song previous, The Engineer.
And by Empire, you mean the British Empire here.
The British Empire, yeah.
Yeah.
And, that there was this technological advancement that had been made by some of these industrial geniuses or madmen, have it as you will.
Yeah, right.
Generous in deed and promise, our emissaries make fair trade and pay with sovereign queenly coin for goods and worldly fortunes made.
Generous in deed and promise, our emissaries make fair trade and pay with sovereign queenly coin for goods and worldly fortunes made.
I think that's a reference to the sovereign, which was a form of coin.
I think this is also a bit tongue-in-cheek because he's talking about emissaries made fair trade and they paid with the sovereign, the coin of the land. It wasn't their coin. It wasn't the coin of wherever they took over.
Right.
They injected it into the economy and probably sent it all sideways.
Now, that's a really interesting point. I had not considered that. We're going to pay in our currency, obviously.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's a fair trade, sure.
Yeah, because obviously the pound is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
And also the fair trade is cheeky because they probably didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Either take the sovereign or we take the product.
Well, and this isn't, this wasn't the beginning of the empire. This was the foundations had already been laid.
Sure. Groundwork.
By things like the East India Company, all of the trade networks that had already been established. A lot of the, economically, a lot of these countries had already been brought to compliance, let's say.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've definitely insinuated themselves well before this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving on, we will win them and contain them, not by Enfield pattern gun.
We will win them and contain them, not by Enfield pattern gun.
Enfield pattern 1853 rifle musket, .577 caliber muzzle loading rifle used by the British Empire for that whole time period.
Okay, so like that specific, I think it was a Remington or whatever, was the gun that won the West. This is the gun that kind of spread the footprint that is the British Empire.
Yeah, and it was British made.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
So it was a British gun. It was used in things like funny that you say, or we've kind of been implying that a lot of these countries just bent over and took it. But in fact, there were lots of rebellions, especially in India. There was the Sepoy Mutiny. There were wars in New Zealand. There were plenty of insurrections and rebellions in which the rifle could be used.
Yeah. Well, there was, they also had Australia. They also had Canada for a long time.
Oh, of course. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No hard coercion, whip or stick, but 10 good shillings to be won.
No hard coercion, whip or stick, but 10 good shillings to be won.
That seems to me like a very specific reference to something to say, 10 shillings must have been an offer for something. Maybe that was to join the military, because
yeah, right.
In any country that the Brits were ruling, they had the British forces, but they also had very big local forces.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is not only a good way to gain a big army without putting your own population at risk, it's also a great way to colonize the minds of the people involved.
Yeah.
There's an old trope, which is that the colonized often will take on the... What is it? The colonized will take on the affects and the spirit of the colonizer more so than the colonizer will.
So it's... What is it when you fall... Florence Nightingale syndrome? Is that it? Where you oh no, that's when you fall in love with someone who takes care of you. What's the one where you...
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm, yeah, it's kind of like Stockholm syndrome, yeah.
For instance, my grandfather, who grew up in British colonized Iran, was more of a Victorian gentleman than a British Victorian gentleman was, and he was very, very, very pro the empire.
Wow.
As British as could possibly be, having not been born there. See, we offer contracts clear in English, plain as it appears.
See, we offer contracts clear in English, plain as it appears.
Very funny to say, hey, we're going to give you a contract that'll rule you for the next 100 years in our language with no translation.
Right, just like paying them in their money.
Exactly. So if you want to understand it, we'd better build a school here.
Yeah, right. Learn the language.
Yeah.
If you're going to be here, you better learn the language.
If you're going to be here in your own country, you better learn our language.
Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating. Linguistically, to look at the effects of colonialism, even now, I heard a wonderful interview with a guy in Singapore who was talking about the shame that he felt in school at speaking Singlish, which is like,
oh wow,
the kind of local dialect of Singaporean English. And the teacher saying, no, that's bad English. That means you're stupid. That means you're bad and immoral, and you have to speak proper English and
oh my god,
and speak it more properly than anyone who actually speaks English does.
Yeah, right.
But that's that sense of like, well, we have to do it to these standards because that's what this colonial heritage has taught us.
Right. Yeah, we have to prove our zealotry.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It really is fascinating psychologically.
Yeah.
And this is the whole piece. This is the Pax that we're talking about.
Yes, right.
In small print, some trifling matters, not important, never fear.
In small print, some trifling matters, not important, never fear.
And this is the sort of thing where, even today we see situations where the World Bank, for instance, will build a hydroelectric dam in a developing country and say, look, all we want is the profit off of it for the first 20 years. After that, you own it free and clear.
Yeah.
Well, after 20 years of a dam running, it's filled with silt and isn't worth anything.
Yeah. Ugh.
Pax Britannica rules the headland and the wave. Hands of spirit will enrich us, keep us from an early grave.
Pax Britannica rules the headland and the wave. Hands of spirit will enrich us, keep us from an early grave.
This is a reference that I'm not sure that I have exactly right, but I think I have a lead on it. Hansa, I think, refers to the Hanseatic League, which was a medieval to late Renaissance business trade association in Northern Europe, kind of across northern Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, up to Prussia and Krakow, for instance. And it was a way of organizing trade. And I think what Ian is implying here, but again, could be quite wrong, is that they were applying that same idea to the world to say, yes, we're all in a trade agreement. But because they were imposing it on these countries, they made sure that the trade agreements favored Britain very heavily.
Yeah. So again, the line is, hence a spirit will enrich us, keep us from an early grave.
That sort of seems like it has a double meaning, both an early grave for Queen Victoria, who lived to be extremely old, or an early grave for the Empire. It wasn't just... I think what's interesting about the British Empire is that it wasn't just based on military force, like a lot of empires are.
Right.
It was based on putting in place economic systems which perpetuate themselves long after they supplant the need for military investment.
Right. You build up a specific structure, and then the threat of you leaving to no longer maintain that structure is just as detrimental as a war or something.
Or you can leave and the system keeps going, and the people, the quote unquote the natives, are running the system for you, and you don't have to do anything except have a couple of Brits who stay there and oversee things and just kind of project that power.
Right. The consulates and the face of Britain. Yeah. In Downton Abbey, one of the cousins they refer to him going to India all the time.
Yes.
And he's like the premier expert on India in that area. So he was clearly, and he's well born, so he was clearly over there in some capacity. And everybody else is kind of clueless to it. So it does make sense that it's a select few, and that's really all you need.
And that parallels what Rome did to a certain extent. Rome didn't control all of its holdings, its territory through military force. It would say, okay, you guys keep the structure, the social structure that you have, as long as you pay us tribute, and we're going to have a centurion who's in charge of things. It's pretty a common method, but I think in this case it was paired with the technological advancements which allowed it to go to the next level.
Yeah, right. It was really a perfect storm for these various methods to come together to really get the roots, the roots of the empire real deep. Rolled up.
The roots of your empire are showing. Maybe you should dye them.
They're not as deep as they used to be.
Not as deep. The next verse gives us some of what we've just been talking about. We'll leave them gifts of architecture, even the way that's phrased. We and them. There's very much this distinction of, the proper Brits and everyone else, and we're doing a great favor to these savages by teaching them culture.
That's it. That's the big takeaway, is we're doing them a favor.
And I think that was what was taught, and I think that is what was believed.
I'm sure it was.
If you look at the poems of Rudyard Kipling, it's totally infused with that sense of to darkest Africa, we're bringing light. The light of civilization. Yeah, he has a lot of references to the Indian occupation as well, I think, right? I think he may have been a part of it. I think so too, yeah. Ugh, awkward. And you hear those attitudes espoused as late as now. Yeah. But also, the 1950s and kind of in the early waning days of the empire. Yeah. We'll leave them gifts of architecture, engineering, laws, and more. Those are some of those systems that self-perpetuate. Right. The willow bat, the bowler hat of gentlemen who keep the score.
We'll leave them gifts of architecture, engineering, laws, and more. The willow bat, the bowler hat of gentlemen who keep the score.
That is a reference to cricket. Cricket! The only sport in the world more boring than baseball. And apparently India's really big into cricket, so that does not surprise that went over. Oh, yes. Most of the places that actually play cricket are British colonial, because the only way you can get anyone to play cricket is by years and years and years of indoctrination and force.
By taking them over and forcing them to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And telling them this is a good thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And baseball, we did to ourselves. Cricket is something that is done to you.
I don't know what's worse.
I don't. They're equally bad. It's really, yeah. Yeah. If not for the revolution, we would probably be playing cricket.
Yeah, probably. Thanks, General Washington.
Thanks, Lafayette. Why don't you throw out the first pitch? Have a Cracker Jack, mon ami.
A single Cracker Jack. That's all you get.
Yeah. Head up code of moral conduct, never minions to deceive. Straight the ball, and best of all, when time is come, we take our leave.
Head up code of moral conduct, never minions to deceive. Straight the ball, and best of all, when time has come, we take our leave.
So that's quite interesting. That kind of makes me think of, it's kind of previewing the decline of empire that we've seen in the last century. But, you know, the kind of the implication here of, yeah, well, we're only doing this for a couple hundred years and then we'll leave without a trace and everything's fine. But the ramifications go on and on and on.
It's utterly transformed in those several hundred years. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have Pax Britannica. Pax Britannica rules the headland and the wave. My God, how many times has Ian used the word headland?
I'd say a cool dozen.
I'd say 30 times.
Really? That many, you think?
I think so. He's very fond of the word.
Well, let's see. I'm going to search for headland right now.
Don't call my bluff now!
Headland. Because we are blessed by Big Brother James, we have the PDF, which is searchable.
BBJ!
It's in Cheerio. It's in Another Christmas Song.
Headland.
It's in This Is Not Love.
Headland.
It's in The Jasmine Corridor.
Headland.
It's in Pax Britannica.
Headland.
I'm not going to count it twice in Pax Britannica
Headland.
Why not?
because it's the same song.
Okay. Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, so less than 30. Fewer than 30
Fewer
times.
than 30, fewer than 12. I could count on one hand the number of times he's used headland.
Well, actually, you can count on one hand the number of songs in which he's used the term headland.
True. Fair enough.
But let's stop splitting hairs. We finish out, hands of spirit will enrich us, keep us from an early grave. My sweet Victoria, your dearest Albert, 2 ledger lines above the stave.
My sweet Victoria, your dearest Albert, 2 ledger lines above the stave.
A very peculiar ending. I'm not sure what that refers
Yeah.
to, except it could be a musical reference.
Oh, it's definitely a musical reference.
2 ledger lines above the stave.
Is that going up the octave?
It is going up the octave.
But why? 2 ledger lines above the stave.
Maybe it's I love you at a high volume. It's
That doesn't indicate volume.
I love you at a high pitch.
I love you so high pitched that only dogs can hear how much I love you.
My sweet Victoria, your dearest Albert.
2 ledger lines above the stave.
Oh wait,
Oh, tell me.
is it?
You got it.
Is that an A? Could he note his own initials by making a musical reference? That would be very funny.
I think it depends on a lot of things that I don't understand in music theory.
Could be a C in the treble clef. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Musicians out there, let us know. You know, I'm gonna message friend of the pod Ian Price right now and ask him. He will know. He's a musician.
It's quite an opaque reference to end the song with.
Yeah.
But there we have it. The Pax Britannica, according to this song, or from the perspective of this song, that the peace of the world radiates out through the heart of our good Queen Victoria.
And we and you are all the better for it.
Exactly. Yes.
Moral of the story, yeah.
There's a wonderful song that I heard sung by the Clancy brothers. I think it might be called Dear Old England. And it is very much, the Irish had a front row seat to colonialism because they were essentially a colonial island,
Yeah.
a colonized island for so long. And the whole song is framed in this sense of, oh, good Mother England, won't you come and teach us, to lay down our evil ways? We're just children who need a loving mother. And it's all terribly tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
But I think it was probably written in the time of Queen Victoria. So that sense of like, she was Mother England.
The personification, yeah.
Exactly.
Because it was never referred to as Father England. It was always Mother England. But it's so rare that you have a queen.
Right.
What a good coincidence there to like really pull that in.
Yes, exactly. Nick, what do we have the pleasure of talking about next week here on the podcast?
Next week is a bit of a weird one. We are starting Part 2 Prophecies with Chapter 9, Tripudium ad Bellum.
An instrumental piece.
Exactly. It is an instrumental. So we will catch up on correspondence, we'll do album art, and we will do reviews all in one go.
It's going to be an amazingly schizophrenic episode of us just bopping around from different points to different points. The jump cuts will leave you dizzy.
I hope you are not prone to seizure.
It's one step beyond Technicolor. We'll be broadcasting in colors that only a shrimp can perceive.
Can they see like extra color?
Yeah, more than we can. They're not
yeah.
They're not extra to them.
Oh, good point. Hashtag not all shrimp. I don't even know what that means.
The shrimp LGBTQ flag is 6 feet wide.
My God, so many colors.
It's got 70 strips in it. Until next week, I'll take the whip or the stick. I'm Owen Thomas Sade.
I am a growing blot spilled Nick McGill.
Oh my. Together we are just 17, the Feckless Momes.
And we will try to win them and contain them with Talk Tull to Me.
Ambiguously gay duo, the ambiguously gay duo. They are taking on evil, come what may. They are fighting all crime to save the day. They're extremely close in an ambiguous way. They're ambiguously gay. They're ambiguously gay. The ambiguously gay duo.
The Ambiguously Gay Duo. Tonight's episode, The Dark Clenched Hole of Evil.